My Sunday morning confession to you is that I've been really struggling to think about how to talk about stewardship in this time. Last year, we talked powerfully about the way our congregation had fueled your flame in these unprecedented times. And you responded enthusiastically with our best stewardship campaign ever. This year, the term unprecedented feels overused and outdated. As we talked about this in our stewardship team meeting a couple months ago, we joked that these times are now precedented. Precedented, but not normal. Precedented, but not comfortable. Precedented, and yet everything has changed. But the precedentedness of this moment means that we no longer have that sourdough baking, Zoom dance partying drive of the early pandemic. Do you remember that? Nor do we have the hopeful anticipation of last winter when vaccines were just becoming available. Now, we are just here, still in the midst of a global pandemic that may or may not be turning endemic, that may or may not be receding, that may or may not be the subject of next year's stewardship sermon as well. We are no longer motivated by that adrenaline of crisis, nor are we riding on the waves of hope. We are simply here, still here. We have begun to grow complacent in our changed ways, complacent in our waiting for something better, perhaps even complacent in our despair. So when I look back over the years on old stewardship sermons, they seem all wrong for this precedented time. They're all about who we could become, what our dreams are as a congregation. We have had so many conversations over the last several years about dreaming big, thinking really aspirationally about our congregation. And what we have talked about is really exciting. We've explored our dreams for vibrant worship and expansive faith formation programs, for social justice work that truly makes change in our community. We've been grappling with our history and how to embody anti-racism and anti-oppression in our congregation. We've talked about the ways we want to feel more deeply a part of this larger community that we're a part of. And we're having serious conversations about updating our building to better serve us now and into the future. How do we talk about our hopes and dreams for our congregation, our imaginings of who we might become in the future, when we can barely imagine what we might do next week? How do we rise up to these aspirations when we are slogging through? Some of us feeling lucky to just make it through the day. One of the podcasts I listened to went on an indefinite hiatus this week so that the host could make space for other work in her life. As she was explaining what brought her to this decision, the host, Catherine Goldstein, said about this moment, "I'm not less ambitious, but I am more tired." Can any of you relate to that? I know that I can. And I think that we as a congregation could say the same thing. We're not less ambitious about our mission, about who we want to be in the world, but we are more tired. And so how do we talk about stewardship? How do I ask you to dig deeper, to think about your gifts and how you can give them to this congregation when I know for a fact that you all are tired. We are tired. Our reality is that even though we are tired, life goes on. Have you noticed? The needs of our world go on, the needs of our community go on, the work of this congregation even goes on. And those aspirations of our mission go on. We are not less ambitious. We still dream of building the beloved community, and as tired as we are, I believe we still can. But in this stewardship season, I don't want to ask you to dig deeper into your depleted self in order to give to this congregation. Instead, I want to ask what it is that still lights the flame within you. What is it that you feel passionate about? What brings you joy and hope? What pulls you out of the exhaustion of this moment? Think about that and how you can give that. How can you bring that gift, that passion, that fire to this congregation to fuel our flame, to live out our mission together? Some of that has to necessarily come in the form of dollars and cents. You saw from our stewardship team some of what it takes to make this congregation run in terms of money. And there are more examples in our stewardship brochure. I'm sure you know or have noticed in your bills that things have gotten more expensive over the last year. And that means church has gotten more expensive too. Inflation affects us just as much as it affects you. And so I do hope that you will consider carefully your financial gift to the congregation this year. Think about what you feel like you can give, and then maybe think again if you could give a little bit more. At the same time, I want to invite you to use this stewardship season to think about the other gifts that you bring to our congregation. Your gifts of time and talent, your commitment and care, your love and spirit. These are just as important. I want you to think about that fire inside you, that passion. Maybe it's been burning just a little bit. Maybe you can feed that fire. And I want you to think about how you can give from that place. It might look different than what you've offered here before. It might be something you never expected you wanted to give, or something you're not sure you can give. But if it lights a fire in your belly, I can guarantee it will help fuel the flame of this congregation. The pandemic has, in many ways, caused us to turn inward, to make our lives small. The act of quarantine is of necessity a time of trimming down to all but the essential parts of life. And so, for many of us, our social circles have closed up. Our orbits have become smaller. We go fewer places and see fewer people. We do less in many ways. And there are good things about this. This time has caused us to ask ourselves what is most important, to see which relationships in our lives hold up under this stress, to see who it is that we still want to be with when it means navigating different levels of comfort and risk, to see what it is we miss most when we cannot do it. And yet, there is much about this turning inward that has caused us to lose things. And so I wonder what it looks like to widen our circles in this time. I know in some ways that's a scary question. There is still so much that is unknown, still so much that could be lost by taking that risk of widening our circle, of looking to those ambitions, those aspirations that we still have. And of course, widening our circle takes energy. And didn't I just say that we're all tired? But I also feel like there's a lot to gain. And I wonder, as a congregation, if it's time for us to begin widening again, to open up and look out, to reclaim some of that ambition, some of that drive, some of our dreams, to stop just getting through the day or the week and look for the passion in our hearts and within our congregation. And if each of us looks within, finds that fire in our belly, and shares just a little bit of that flame, just imagine what we might be able to fuel together. May it be so.